All right, this is going to be interesting because this is kind of a short segment, and I'll see if the congressman can hang over. Paul Ryan, how are you, sir?
Fine, great one. How you doing?
Good. You're all mad at me, aren't you?
No,
all
I heard you stripped the bark off me the other day, but friends do that to each other. It's all in good jest.
Well, this is painful for me because I think this is very, very foolish. But first of all, did you see the CBO today? It just came out and said that the Senate bill will only reduce illegal immigration by 25% and will have 10 million more illegal aliens here over 10 years. Did you see that?
I did not. I'd been in budget talks in the Capitol all day.
Well, now that you know that, you can't support this bill as is, can you?
I'm focusing on the House bill. That's what I've been talking about. All my comments have been on the House bill. I've been saying all along that the Senate has to do a better job.
But hold on a second. If the Senate bill comes over, you can't support this bill, can you?
It's not coming over. We're not going to bring up the Senate bill. We've been very clear about that. We're going to do our bill in the House. We're going to bring our bills to the floor through the Judiciary Committee. So our Speaker has been really clear. We're not bringing up the Senate bill. But I've been saying all along, we need to fix this problem. This issue has to get dealt with. I think I heard in your lead-in, you're talking about 86. Well, 86 didn't work. Then we came up with a new law in 96. That didn't work. Then we've been trying to come up with a new law since 2006. We want to get it right this time so we're not here with the same problem 10 years from now.
Well, why should we trust, when I say you, the generic you, why should we trust you? Let me tell you something. I don't think we've had a better president than Ronald Reagan, and he thought that he was securing the border, and we could never get the funding for it. Let me just continue. Under Republican presidents, they wouldn't fund existing law requirements on the border. In 2006, you guys passed another law for hundreds of miles of secured fence. You built 36 miles. I mean, we the people, we're sitting here listening. Oh, this time we're going to fix it. This time we mean it. But first, a border security has to come after legalization. We're not buying it.
So I voted for that in 06, that fence bill, that they called it the Censor Banner bill at the time. And you're right.
But we didn't fund it.
That's right. So here's what we're saying in the House. Real metrics on the border. Not somebody signs off like Janet Napolitano says, okay, I certify the border secure. What we have done through our Homeland Security investigation, through our committee, is real metrics that certify objectively whether or not the border is secure. That's number one. We say that has to be met. Number two.
Hold on. Who does the metrics? Who does it?
It's an objective measurement of metrics.
By whom?
Border Patrol, by the General Accountability Office. That's our auditing arm of Congress. By Congress measuring the administration as to whether or not they met these metrics. So it's not hard to measure a metric if you have an objective criteria. The other point I'm saying is we also have to have an E-Verify system up in place so that you can determine whether or not a person is legally who they say they are and whether they're legally allowed to be in the country or not. And so the things we've been saying in the House is put a person who is an undocumented immigrant in probationary status. Judges put people on probation all the time. That gives them a non-immigrant work visa, during which time you have to have these border triggers met that are objective, not subjective, objective.
Can I slow you down? Because it gets confusing for people. Let's first talk about the, as you call it, the undocumented immigrant, or as I say, illegal alien. Let's talk about this a second.
Yeah.
What if this person doesn't meet your requirements? You're going to deport them?
Yeah, then they're deportable. That's the whole point.
No, but they're not going to be deported. You're a member of Congress. You're chairman of the Budget Committee. The president is in charge of whether they're deported, and he's not deporting.
So if you write a law that says here is your condition of probation, if you violate the terms of probation, it's deportable. It's not you can't adjudicate. It's how you write the law. And so what I'm trying to tell you, Mark, is in the House, we think, let me back up for a second. Do you believe we're going to find 11 million or more people where we don't know who they are and where they are and round them up and kick them out of this country?
No.
No, that's not going to happen.
I don't think under this administration we're going to round up 500,000 people and kick them out of this country.
Any administration isn't going to be able to do that, even if they tried. And so here's the problem. In this post-9/11 environment,
yeah, that's why people want the border secured first, so we're not counting 50 million people.
Right. So in this post-9/11 environment, in this environment where the drug cartels are moving north into Mexico, it really matters that we get border security. It really matters that we know who is coming and going to and from this country. It really matters that we know if a person's overstayed their visa and where they likely are to be or not. We know none of that. And so you have to rewrite these immigration laws to get those things. And so what we're saying is, get these people in probation. You got to pay a fine. You got to pay taxes. You got to learn English. You got to learn civics.
All of which was under the 1986 bill, by the way.
Then you have to have these border triggers. You have to have the Real ID program up and running. And then and only then, after those things have been certified, can that person, at a minimum of 5 years, get in the back of the line to change their status, to get a green card or a visa, after everybody who came here the right way, the first way, illegally gets adjudicated, gets their petition processed. So
I want to get back to this border quickly.
Sure.
Can I carry over for one more segment? Because I want us to hammer some of this out. Let's talk about, we're going to have matrix. Okay, what are we measuring exactly?
So the way we measure this, there are certain parts of the border where we believe you have to have fences. There are certain parts of the border.
You know what? I'm going to interrupt you. Not to be rude. The music is my.
Gotcha.
Congressman, I apologize. I'm going to ask you the same question when we come back in about 5 minutes. Is that okay?
My pleasure.
All right. I appreciate you being here, Paul. I really do. We'll be back with Congressman Paul Ryan. I'm Mark Levin. I'm here with my friend, the chairman of the Budget Committee, Congressman Paul Ryan. We're having a little disagreement over this immigration issue.
Hey, good conservatives can disagree on something.
That's right, and people need to learn that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And where we left it off, and thank you for holding over, the issue now, this matrix about border security, right. What is that?
Metrics, I said, metrics.
Metrics, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I won't speak as fast. You were running out of time, so I spoke really quickly. I do that sometimes. We do that in Wisconsin. Okay.
By the way, Marco does that too, I noticed. But go ahead, yes.
So, okay, we have certain metrics that we believe certify actual border security. So many fences in certain areas, so many number of Border Patrol agents hired, so many drones that are up and running and flying and patrolling the border in certain areas that are very, very difficult terrain, a number of apprehensions. Those are things that we have actual metrics, measurements, that we think constitute securing the border. Now, the measurement of this is not the administration. We don't trust Janet Napolitano or the administration to sort of wink and nod and tell us, oh, yeah, don't worry, it's all done. That's why our measurement body is the General Accountability Office, which is Congress's auditing arm, and the border officials from the states. Rick Perry's people down in Texas, Jan Brewer's people down in Arizona. So we want state officials who have a real interest in this, and the General Accountability Office. And then we say, back to the probation part, you can't get out of probation. Not only can you not get out of probation if E-Verify is not up and running nationwide, you go back to a non-immigrant status. And so it's a real hook on the administration to get this up and running. What is E-Verify? It's an electronic verification program.
Hold on, hold on. Before we get to E-Verify,
sure.
I want to deal with this metrics and so forth. Well, it sounds swell, but I still don't know what the metrics are.
Yeah, so I literally don't have the language in front of me with the numbers, but it's actual. This part of the border has to have this kind of fence. This number of Border Patrol agents have to be patrolling the border. This number of drones have to be purchased and procured and up and running. These numbers of detention facilities have to be at these locations to where we have hot spots collecting people.
And if that doesn't happen, these temporary visas are withdrawn?
Yeah, if that doesn't happen, you can never get out of probation, number one. And then if...
All right, well, so if you're never out of probation, then what are you?
Well, you're in a non-immigrant probationary status.
Well, Marco calls that de facto amnesty.
No, what I would call... I think what he means is the current system is de facto amnesty.
Well, that's de facto amnesty too, then. How can it not be?
So the next sentence I was going to say is, then if E-Verify is not up and running, then you are not even on probation anymore. You lose your probationary status. And so what we think this does is it puts the cart behind the horse and the horse in front of the cart by saying, here's actual border enforcement that has to be up and running. Here's a real system that tells whether or not a person is lawfully present in the country and that they are who they say they are when they go apply for a job. Those are the critical things you need to do. And I can go on and on if you'll.
Well, I have some questions. Yeah, but I'm a quick study. I have a couple of questions though.
Yeah.
This metrics. How long a period do they have to put this stuff in place?
So each of these has different deadlines. Like the Border Patrol agent has a different deadline. The fence has a different deadline. The drones has a different deadline.
Well, give me a ballpark. 5 years, 10 years, 100 years?
Oh, gosh, within 3 years. Within 5 years for the entire E-Verify system. And if the E-Verify system is not up and running nationwide, every business, then the whole thing gets wiped out. You lose your probationary status. And by the way, if you violate the terms of your probation, don't pay your taxes, commit a felony, don't pay your fine, don't learn English, don't learn civics,
how about if you commit
your terms of your probation?
How about if you commit 3 misdemeanors?
There is a misdemeanor. I have to ask the lawyer, but there is a level of misdemeanors that if you do commit, that's terms of probation, of violating your probation as well. So
how about if you don't learn English?
Repeated misdemeanors.
What happens if you don't learn English?
That is part of the requirement to maintain probationary status.
So you really believe, no, Congressman, seriously, you really believe if somebody's not proficient in English, having come here at the age of 20-something or other, they're not proficient in English, now they're 30-something or other, they're still not proficient in English, that if they don't learn proficiency in English, that they're going to be denied their probationary status?
Look at what we have.
I don't buy that for 2 seconds.
Look at what we have right now. We have no control of our border. We don't know if people overstay their visa or not. We don't know who's coming and going in this country. People are receiving welfare benefits that they're not supposed to. What this does is it says during this entire time and for 5 more years, you can't receive welfare benefits. You've got to get this border stuff up and running. Otherwise, the rest of the law can't proceed. You got to get the E-Verify system up and running. Otherwise, the rest of the law can't proceed. And you can't receive welfare benefits. All of those things, Mark, are dramatic improvements on current law. Is it going to be perfect? Of course, nothing this big is ever perfect.
I know, but hold on a second.
Substantial improvement on where we are right now.
The E-Verify system was started under what law?
E-Verify was a pilot project that started, I want to say, in the 90s, in mid-90s. I think 90s.
No, but there was an E-Verify system that was supposed to be in place in... Let me read you about this 1986 law, because people seem to think...
Sure.
Yeah. It criminalized the act of knowingly hiring an illegal alien. Mm-hmm. It established financial and other penalties for employing illegal aliens.
That's right.
It created the I-9 form to ensure that all employees presented documentary proof of their legal eligibility. Illegal aliens were required to pay $185, a filing fee. I think it's $500 under the Senate bill, whatever it is. Demonstrate, quote, good moral character and no criminal record, unquote, that they would not become public charges, proof of English competency, and knowledge of American history. That was the law. Right. That's the law today that you guys, you plural, you guys and this president won't enforce. But I don't mean you. I'm talking about, but Boehner's been around a while. Reed's been around a while. A lot of them have been around a while. This is the law that will not be enforced. Then on the other side, the fence, which frustrated Reagan to no end, we were supposed to have the security part. This is why I think, Congressman, the American people are saying, this metrics thing sounds great. Now put it in place. Let's see how it works. Right. Then we'll do all the rest. 3 things. You have every reason to be suspicious. You have every reason to doubt this because of reality and past history. This is why what we are doing in the House is trying to say, let's learn from these lessons, let's learn from these mistakes, and do everything we can to make sure that we don't repeat them. Number 1, I-9 is a joke. I'm very familiar with the I-9 form. You as an employer have to see 2 of 5 different forms of ID, which you have no idea of whether or not it's legit or not. A person can take another person's Social Security number, can take another person's identity, show it to you, and that's good enough. And then it's like voting in this country.
Yeah, then you as an employer, you're off the hook, and you don't know whether or not you're hiring a person that's legal. The entire E-Verify system is to match up this person's biographical data, their photograph, their immigration data, and their Social Security data to make sure that the person actually is who they say they are, something that the employer does not now have. Second problem with 86 was they stopped the guest worker program. They basically made it harder for people to legally come to America to find a job. And so what did they do? They came over illegally. They crossed the border illegally. And so that's a huge issue that we have to deal with, which is what we call future flow. You have to have a system of high fences and wide gates. Separate the economic immigrant from the criminal immigrant who's coming and integrating with them coming over the border.
Who's going to do this again? So let me slow you down.
Yes.
Which bureaucracy is so competent this is going to happen again?
So when we talk about the border, when we talk to the people at the state, and we talk to the people on the border, they say one of the problems we have is the criminal immigrants, the drug smugglers, the people who have all the felonies. They're integrating with economic immigrants. It makes it harder to figure this out. If you can have economic immigrants, people coming for work, come through the front door with a guest worker visa to do a job that we can't find people to do, like working for the dairy industry in western Wisconsin, one of the things we have a labor shortage in. You can help.
Why do you have a
hold on now?
This is important. Why do you have a labor shortage in that?
So, I'll answer that question, but let me finish this point. The point I'm trying to say is,
yes,
of among the things we need to do to better secure the border, one of the things we failed to do in 1986 is we did not have a reasonable system where a person who wanted to come get a job in America could come through the front door and get a job. So what they did was they came through illegally and overwhelmed our border. If we can separate that economic immigrant through the legal system, through the front door, pay your taxes, have a real tamper-proof ID, you are who you say you are, we've done the background check on you, that helps us take pressure off of illegal border enforcement.
Okay, I've got it. Congressman, I've got a few questions here. Number one, you say economic immigrant. Even at people in this country who are not economic citizens, because we keep waving welfare benefits in their face. And so people come into this country, you call them economic immigrants, and you'll say, well, for 5 years they can't get on welfare. Now, that we know that's not true. You even commented on a story not long ago where we have people who are here illegally receiving all kinds of welfare payments and illegal payments. This isn't going to be the corruption of big government. You know this as a smart conservative. The corruption of big government's not going to be fixed by this law.
So what I want to do, what I've been doing for years in my budget bills, has been putting in provisions that we say we have to affirmatively go into law and say that people who are these kinds of immigrants, people who are in probation, people who are in their first 5 years of a green card cannot receive any welfare benefits, any food stamp benefits, any Obamacare benefits. We need to go affirmatively deny those benefits in law, like we're not doing now. And so this is why we passed legislation. This is why we need to do legislation. The point I'm trying to say to you, Mark, is all those things you say are true, but if you want to fix those things, you need to fix this in legislation. That's why we're saying no benefits, do this stuff on the border, get the verification system up and running, and have a guest worker program to take pressure off the border so that you do not have this incentive to illegally cross the border. You have a system where you can legally cross the border and do it in a smart way where you're not taking a job.
Okay, I got that. But Congressman,
here.
We're running out of time. Congressman, we have the allure of the welfare state. You keep putting two categories, criminals and terrorists in one, and economic immigrants, you call them in another. Why don't you have the third category? People who are attracted to the welfare state after 5 years or illegal Social Security cards or what have you. We have that allure too, don't we?
Because I want to pass a law to deny them any welfare benefit for the next 10 years. That's why I put in the future, I'm looking at economic immigrants. I want to change the legal immigration system so that it's more economic-based, not chain migration-based, not welfare-based, but economic-based. People coming for jobs that they already have lined up for them, whether it's agriculture, construction, or software engineering. We ought to have an immigration system that's good for our economy. That's not the kind we have right now. So what I'm thinking when I'm talking to you is the kind of reforms we're saying is get the border in control, make sure that we know who people are, deny them welfare benefits, and then let people come into the country to take jobs that they have waiting for them that they're not taking from other people to help us with our economy. In a decade, we're going to have labor shortages. The baby boomers are retiring. We don't have as many people following them into the workforce. We're going to need more workers. Not now, not today. In some industries, we need them. In some agriculture industries, in some high-tech industries. But in a decade, when you get 10,000 people retiring each and every day.
But nobody's debating that. We're talking about having a legal immigration system so we know who's coming and going. And I'm telling you, you keep putting it, we need to secure the border and then have the, but we're not going to secure the border and then have. We're going to have and then secure the border or simultaneously secure the border. That's why a lot of people are resisting this.
Right. And the point I'm trying to make to you is we want hard border triggers that are not signed off subjectively by some government bureaucrat. We want a hard verification system up in front before you can proceed with any status change. And we want a legal immigration system that takes pressure off of the border so that we can better secure the border and get the economy the labor it needs to grow the economy. That's the point I'm trying to make. This stuff goes together. It goes hand in glove.
Well, not really. We've tried this hand in glove stuff before.
No, I'm saying they didn't do that.
Can I just ask you a question?
But let me say it. They didn't do this the right way in 86. They didn't do this the right way in 2006.
Well, it's not just 86. You guys have been in Congress for decades. I mean, you don't have to just sit around and wait for 1986. You could have passed a single bill out of Congress that said, all right, the border's not being secured, now secured. You could have passed a single bill out of Congress that said this E-Verify system is a joke, now put teeth in it. It's not, and we're all sitting around waiting for you guys. And then we have comprehensive immigration reform. Schumer's involved, the left's involved. We know what they're up to, and the people are saying, wait a minute. Secure the damn border, secure the interior of the country, then we'll figure out what to do with the illegal aliens. But you get that, right?
I get that. I just think that I think you have to deal with this other piece in order to truly secure the border. You need to deal with legal immigration. You need to deal with the future flow of immigrants, because if you don't give a person the ability to come here legally, if they're poor, if they're fighting for their family, if they're south of the border, they'll come here one way or the other. And I think you need to find a way to make sure that they're coming to contribute to America, to contribute to our country, to learn our system, to assimilate, to contribute to our economy. And I think that's a key ingredient that we have failed to work on in the past if we're going to really secure this border.
Listen, I've enjoyed the back and forth.
Me too. I love it.
People will make their own decision. I could go on an hour with you because I find this intriguing, quite frankly. And when's the debt ceiling issue come up, by the way? I've got 30 seconds.
They keep moving the date on us. It looks like it's November now. We thought July, then August, then Fannie and Freddie cut a big check. People realized their capital gains last year when taxes go up, go figure, and now it's looking like November.
November.
That's what the Treasury tells us.
I wish you well, my friend. God bless you.
Hey, look, I enjoy the debate. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, take care. Take care. Well, what do you think, Mr. Producer? I think he's a very interesting guy. I also think it's so sad. It really is. I'll explain more when we return, but I do like the guy. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.